Welcome everyone to another edition of 4D, Def's Daily Dose of Dota. I'm your host, Michael, Deficist Plumley, and today, it's October 28th. It's my grandmother's birthday. She's actually watching, although, looking at the time, she's probably sleeping by now. But today is episode 15, and we're going to be featuring EG.Arteezy's Lycanthrope. If you watched the recent Star Ladder Star Series Season 10 Offline LAN Finals, you'll know that EG really likes Lycanthrope. Like a lot. He got a recent nerf in 6.82C, I think, but that doesn't stop EG from still using him in tournaments and winning money with him. To start things off today, I wanted to hop into my simulation program that I analyze most of the heroes in. So let's hop into the split cam. What I wanted to start off with was just a rundown of the character itself. I have Lycanthrope selected in my simulation program. And a couple things to point out that you see immediately. His damage breakdown as a carry, not that surprising. Entirely physical damage. All of his abilities are physical, including the wolves that he summons. All physical damage. The spell breakdown, also not that surprising. He's mostly reliant on those right clicks. There's no spells here, there's no dots, there's no Ogre Magi multicast of magical damage. A lot of it's just standard carry, right-clicking things down. But I would like to point out, the Shapeshift provides a substantial DPS increase, not as much as in 6.81, since it was nerfed in 6.82. He lost some of his attack speed bonus, but it could still be a 15 to 20% DPS increase, which is pretty good for an ultimate. And also worth noting is the summon wolves can be a substantial percentage of your DPS as well, upwards of 25%. Partly because you have almost 100% uptime with them. Even if you do lose them, you can scatter them away. They're always going to be there with a low cooldown relative to their duration. But also they have a crit multiplier, and they're going to benefit from the several abilities that you have that benefits yourself, such as Howl and Feral Impulse. I want to hop over to the Dota 2 wiki page for Lycanthrope. Another great resource if you want to learn more about the heroes. But I wanted to just go down to the balance change log and just take note of the nerf, if you want to call it that, that we saw in 6.82. We see here Shapeshift no longer has a 1.5 second base attack time reduction. Slight nerf, as I mentioned. You're going to be losing a little bit of attack speed. But also the cooldown increased. You can see 10 to 20 seconds depending on the rank. And the 1.5 second transformation time is probably the biggest thing to get used to. Gone are the days where you can be in the middle of the fight, immediately use your Lycan and get that maxed out movement speed. But they've tweaked it slightly by increasing the movement speed from 522 to 650, meaning although there's going to be that brief delay where you're standing still before you can engage into the fight, you're now going to be traveling at 650 movement speed, which is fast enough to run everybody down, including the new courier. And we are going to see that. We're going to be focusing on not only EG.Arteezy's item build, his positioning, how he does the laning phase, but also when he chooses to pop that Shapeshift ultimate and how he utilizes it. Is he actually able to secure kills with it? Let's hop into the game and see. As always, I like to start off with the draft. You guys saw it up on screen. We're going to click the play button here.
Radiant team pick.
And just examine that for the composition-wise, for Team Secret, they're coming out right now with 2 strength heroes, 2 intelligence heroes. They already have their Earthshaker and Ogre Magi supports. Death Prophet will presumably be in the mid lane phase, who would be an excellent candidate to lane up against Lycan. Gyrocopter, going to be an agility carry. Very good pick. I like it here. You need someone who can stand up to the damage that Lycan pushes out, which is mostly physical damage. Evil Geniuses, however, are going to play with a Lycan this match. Interesting approach. No agility heroes, but they're still pretty tanky, in my opinion. Tidehunter, substantially Lycan as well. And Dazzle will provide an agility, or rather an armor buff, to all the heroes. So I'm not too worried about Evil Genius's lineup being paper thin in the late game.
10 5
Let's hop into the game
seconds
and see how this turns out for our heroes.
For battle.
Get this off onto free camera. And immediately at the start of the game, we see our heroes for EG moving out. Zai playing the Visage. He's going to provide a little bit of extra DPS, maybe a stun or two, to help Arteezy secure those kills. The Puck, with his ultimate, are going to be able to keep heroes in place, making them excellent food for Arteezy when he's using his Feral Impulse. It's only 18 seconds, or Shapeshift rather. Shapeshift is only 18 seconds, and with a minute plus cooldown depending on the rank, you definitely want to be sure you're using it wisely and using it to secure kills. Tidehunter, one of the core heroes that EG is running these days, is going to be able to provide that AoE Ravage, 2.77 seconds. If he ever gets a refresher, it'll be 5 seconds of heroes stunned and just being torn apart by this Lycan. On the Secrets side, we see their method for attempting to deal with this Lycan. Gyrocopter, very good agility hero. Good AoE damage, good at killing the Visage familiars.
The battle begins.
Timbersaw is going to be dealing pure damage. That can cut through the armor buff that Dazzle will be providing. Earthshaker, fantastic support that Secret loves to play with Big Daddy and No Tail. And Ogre Magi, very popular in the metal right now. Could help provide that burst damage to kill the Lycan. And although I mentioned that Arteezy would typically play mid with this Lycan, and he would have a difficult time rather against Death Prophet, we see the Puck going mid as a result of that 5th pick. Instead, like many good carries that came before him, we'll see him occupying the easy lane with the assistance of a Dazzle and a Visage who is already going to be pulling the lane to make sure Arteezy can get as much farm as possible. He's picking up Howl at level 1 just to get some extra hero bonus damage. Make that last hitting as easy as possible for him. We see him just focusing very much on that at the beginning. Already up to 4 last hits. He has a Ring of Protection. And picking up a Quelling Blade from the side shop though, after starting with a Stout Shield, 4 Tangos, and 1 Iron Branch. I always like to remind people that Tangos you cannot buy at the side shop, but an item like a Quelling Blade, an item like the Stout Shield as well, you can pick those up there. But he's going to have a reasonably good time with just the Timbersaw occupying the off lane and Dazzle serving to zone him out. We see Zai using this time to execute a double pull as well, knowing that there's not going to be much to go around for the supports, so he's just trying to be as useful as possible with his time. As his other support, PPD, rotates to pick up the top rune. And now that he's level 3, he's picked up a point in Feral Impulse, just increasing his DPS, and picking up the Wolves. We see Dazzle just harassing the Timbersaw, keeping him out of lane, and that's allowing Arteezy to do excellent work. Gyrocopter, played by the Kuroki, is getting a similar farm in the bottom lane, going up against only EG Universe's Tidehunter. We also see the support of Secret using the time to execute a double pull himself. But in this laning phase, we're just seeing a lot of harassment coming out from the supports and constant farming by the Lycan. He's already picked up his Ring of Basilius, Ring of Basilius. Does anyone really know how to pronounce that? I don't. But he's presumably going to be building that into an early Vladimir's offering. Arteezy is very consistent, very refined with his builds. He likes to pick up items that buff, as I mentioned earlier, the Wolves, which provide perhaps 25% of his damage for the hero. Later on, we'll see him pick up an Assault Cuirass that can also buff not only himself, but those wolves. In much the same vein that the Howl damage and Feral Impulse also buff not only the hero, but the wolves that are with him. Even Necro Book units, which we may see him get this game. Just using the Howl to push out the lane, making sure he's getting as many last hits as possible, and you can see he's slightly ahead of Kuroki in the opposite lane.
Dazzle.
Timbersaw getting a reasonable amount of levels here as the off lane coming in and starting to contest now that the supports have rotated away. And with this rune, or rather the observer ward placed here, he'll be able to back up when he sees them in tow. But this being a carry Lycan game, episode of 4D is all about the farming in the early phase. A bottle being picked up by Lycan.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Going to be coming his way now. We see him just calculating, waiting, using his time to get as many denies off as possible. We may see him rotate to help out Timbersaw here. Or help out PPD, who's being focused by Timbersaw. We see the bottle coming in for him. It's the 5-minute mark. He has 3 points now in his Summon Wolves, doing increased damage as well as having increased HP, already rank 3. And we'll see him rotate into the jungle, which already has several double stacks and triple stacks ready for him. With the synergy of Howl and Feral Impulse buffing both he and his Summon Wolves, and that early bottle to ensure he has the mana to use the wolves, he'll be able to substantially increase his farm. We could just go to the gold per minute.
Dire's
Right now
bottom
sitting at
tower
around
is under attack.
400. We'll soon be starting to pull ahead. Lycan Wolves at that rank
Dire's
3 have
bottom
both the
tower is
invisibility,
under
which is
attack.
useful for scouting, but also that 1.7 crit chance. And with him farming in the jungle, which is bolstered by the
Dire's
bottle,
bottom tower is
we
under
see him
attack.
being able to make a very quick
Dire's
rotation to this bottom
structures
rune
are fortified.
to fill up the bottle charges.
Illusion.
Meanwhile, the Visage has been able to occupy the lane. And with this camp empty,
First blood.
we see him rotate back to lane.
First blood.
The supports for EG just doing fantastic work. PPD rotating to the mid there to help Fear secure the first kill with the help of a Poison Touch and a Shadow Wave.
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Dire's bottom
We see
tower
Arteezy
is
very
under-
close to that level
Dire's
6, being
bottom
very
tower
aggressive
has fallen.
on Timbersaw, diving past the tower, forcing out a rotation from Big Daddy's No-Tail. Team Secret's Big Daddy, rather. But more of the same. Arteezy just rotating
Radiant's
back into the
top
jungle,
tower is under attack.
continuing to farm up. Losing a little bit of time, but he's still very high on net worth. Keeping very competitive with the Gyrocopter carry from Secret. Microing the Lycan Wolves to die. Right. And then immediately summoning them after. And just going back to farming. It's 7:33. He has 2 more bottle charges. He'll presumably use those and be able to rotate back to the rune. As we see him bottling up. Using the time here to just farm up the camp.
Dark light.
That Shadow Wave helping to force out a little extra DPS.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
But we saw Timbersaw grab the top rune there. And instead Arteezy rotates back to the lane, now with his level 6 shapeshift, and he's getting very close to that Vladimir's offering, as it comes out at about the 8-minute mark. Fantastic speed from Arteezy. You can tell he's rehearsed the item progression over and over. Lycan being one of his more prolific heroes these days, even after that 6.82 nerf. And now with that Vladimir's offering, we get a lot of more auras that are very similar to his two core talents, the second and third Howl and Feral Impulse. An aura, bonus attack speed, bonus damage from Howl. Likewise, Vladimir's giving bonus damage and bonus armor and bonus regen, along with a critical lifesteal that'll help him not only jungle, but eventually take on Roshan.
Behold!
And at the 9-minute mark, that may be where he heads now. Instead, he stays in the vicinity and goes over to farm the Ancients. The Wolves being his first talent maxed out, down to 1.1 attack speed, 46 damage with a crit multiplier, and 320 HP. That was being scouted out by Kuroki. He just moved over to sap a little bit of the XP that Lycan was getting. And we use the Feral Impulse, or the Shapeshift, rather, to just rotate through the lanes and eventually come up top, although he was not needed due to some key rotations from Universe. Instead, he just gets to continue farming,
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
choosing not to defend the mid, Death Prophet having to expend her ultimate there. Arteezy rotating in now. Shapeshift, a 2-minute cooldown at the early stages. And with Fear dead, Arteezy just soaking up this mid lane, pushing out. A place he's very familiar with as Lycan.
Dire's bottom tower
In this same series, we saw him play Lycan mid to great effect. But it's the 10-minute mark, or the 10-minute rune rather, that he's going to rotate, grab. And now that he has the power treads, a little more survivability, a little more damage, a little more attack speed, he moves back to farming. Creep's falling very quickly now. And next, with the level 8 talent, choosing to increase his Feral Impulse talent. Howl's an okay talent, but it does cost mana, and it's only 10-second duration. Feral Impulse, just going to be giving you more damage, more attack speed for everyone, including your Lycan Wolves. And we see, still keeping very consistent, very close farm to the Gyrocopter on Team Secret. A medallion coming out on our Visage, a key item to help kill Roshan. Arteezy using the wolves to scout around. And he's just occupying this top lane. There's a siege creep here. Wants to keep this tower up for as long as he can manage, helping to protect the jungle where he's been able to execute some farm.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Picking up a TP scroll. And otherwise just pulling his 1,000 gold right now. Focusing on the mid game. On that gold per minute farm. He's a little bit above 400 now. Staying very competitive with the carries of the opposing team.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Bringing the wolves with him. And this will be a smoke. Coming out from our EG team at the 12-minute mark. PPD
Radiant's middle tower is
and
under
Visage.
attack.
Occupying the mid lane now. They could press onto the tower, but instead, in classic Lycan form, they'll be rotating to pursue Roshan. There was not a ward here coming out of Secret, but better safe than sorry. Still committing that. And Lycan falling very quick. Arteezy not even have to pop his shape shift. Dropping his stout shield and ready to pick up
Roshan has fallen to the
that
dark.
first Aegis of the game. And another smoke being picked up by Dazzle. And Arteezy will continue to just farm up, start working towards his first big item of the game. He's also level 10, would love to shave 30 seconds off of that shapeshift transformation as soon as he hits level 11.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
But we see him sending the wolves to the top lane for the last 8 seconds they're alive.
Radiant's
And instead
middle
his
tower
team will
is
rotate into
under
the bottom
attack.
lane.
Foes fall down.
Just being present to help secure that kill on Earthshaker. Not contributing to that particular fight, but they are here en masse to push out this lane. With Dazzle
Dire's top tower is under attack.
coming to attempt to deny or delay the push from the Timbersaw. While Arteezy pushes out the opposing lane. Having summoned new wolves. He's level 11 now, he's maxed out Feral Impulse and summon wolves. And with that rank 2 shapeshift, a 90-second cooldown, he is ready to team fight.
Radiant's bottom tower
There is a siege
under
creep here.
attack.
He's going to let those items alone do damage while he moves into the jungle to farm. Little does he know, an Ogre Magi is waiting. A call down as well coming out.
Is under attack.
Arteezy chooses to use this shapeshift
Radiant's
defensively.
bottom tower
Just
is
running
under
away.
attack.
Getting to the other side of the river, beyond the safety of this rune, or this ward rather,
Dire's structures
covering the bottom
are
rune.
fortified.
and just continues to farm.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
That was the purpose of
Radiant's
him
middle tower is
moving into the
under
jungle
attack.
originally. As we see significant fighting happening in the top lane. Death Prophet using Exorcism. Visage almost claiming a kill on Timbersaw there. An early Shallow Grave coming out to Puck as he continues to bottle up. But while all this fighting is happening, Arteezy
Radiant's
Space
middle
created,
tower
as he
is
would
under
say.
attack.
pushing out the lane, helping to secure the tier 1 tower,
Radiant
summoning new
structures
wolves,
are
and even with
fortified.
Death Prophet coming back into the lane, this tower is not long for this world. It's the 15-minute mark. The first big team fight has happened. Arteezy has that Aegis. And now, we see the first item coming out, Necrobook, to increase his split pushing and synergize with both the Vladimir's offering and his 2 AoE talents. We are going to choose that time to take a break. That's what I would consider the end of the early phase, the laning phase, for this episode of Def's Daily Dose of Dota, episode 15. When we come back, we're going to continue pursuing EG.Arteezy's Lycan. He has the Necrobook rank 1 coming out. How will he use his rank 2 shapeshift in team fights? We've seen it used defensively already. We've seen it used to rotate. How will he use it to capitalize and secure some kills? We'll be back after this relaxing music break.